My name is Anna Bateman, and on the day I turned 26, the only thing that remembered me was a duck-shaped fridge magnet. Birthdays were never a big deal in our house. Well, not mine. For Jenna, my older sister, our living room transformed into a Pinterest field study. Gold balloons that needed a GPS tracker, caterers who called the charcuterie board a grazing experience, and cakes tall enough to have their own climate. Once, Mom hired a magician. Not for the kids, for Jenna. Because she still believes in wonder, Mom said, like wonder was a boutique service only offered to firstborns. When it was my birthday, there was space. The kind of silence that hums at the edges and asks you to be grateful for not being a bother. You're so low maintenance, sweetie, Mom would coo, as if invisibility were a love language. This year felt heavier. I'd pieced enough of my life together to feel visible to myself. I'd earned a promotion, moved out of my moldy, eternally damp apartment into a place with windows that opened without bargaining. Bought a used car that didn't sound like a blender struggling with gravel. Not milestones for a parade, maybe, but enough to make me think a grocery store cake might appear. A text, a candle, something. Morning drifted past with the kitchen clock ticking like a polite metronome. Afternoon, too. I gave them the generous window, the one hopeful people invent for the surprise they're not actually expecting. Around 6, I heard the engine in our driveway. I peeled back the blinds like a sitcom extra praying for a cue. There they were, Mom, Dad, Jenna, dressed up, laughing, the shimmer of reservation energy around them. I opened the door as they were backing out. Hey, where are you going? Mom blinked like she'd discovered a wild Bateman on the porch. Oh, honey, we're grabbing dinner. From the back seat, Jenna, glossy and grinning. Special dinner. Dad scored a table at Taverna Luca. Dad lifted a hand in a half wave. You know, the place with the bread in the little cloth bag. I stood there in socks on the cold step, the stranger on the threshold of my own home. Cool, I said. Have fun. Sure thing, birthday girl, Mom called, smiling as she shut the door. Not mine. Theirs. They drove off, the taillights gliding away like punctuation marks on a sentence I didn't get to finish. For a full beat, I waited for confetti, some cousin in a bush, a lopsided cake popping up from behind the hedge. Nothing. Just me and the neighbor's sprinkler clicking like a sarcastic clock. Inside, the refrigerator offered exactly one option, a single, slouching dumpling in a plastic container that fogged like it had secrets. I ate it cold, leaning over the sink so the soy sauce wouldn't drip on my sweater. Somewhere across town, my family raised glasses over truffled something, and the kitchen light flickered over my one dumpling dinner like even the bulb felt awkward. I tried to be reasonable. They're busy. They forgot. They'll make it up to me. But as night thinned and sealed again without a ping, no text, no drunk emoji, no accidental pocket call, the truth floated up and settled. I wasn't low maintenance. I was optional. And the thing about being optional is, eventually, you stop waiting to be chosen. The next morning, Jenna posted a group photo from the restaurant. All white napkins and wine glass teeth, Mom's head tilted with practiced joy, Dad's smile in that tight managerial shape. Caption, family is everything. I didn't like it. I didn't comment. I did read it, again and again, like an archaeologist looking for proof of absence. A week later, a plain white envelope arrived, Mom's handwriting cramped like she was filling out a test. Inside, a card with "Happy Birthday, Daughter" in a font that made my eyes itch, and a $20 bill folded once like a guilty secret. No message, just the bill and the bright balloon clip art. I stared at the money long enough for it to become metaphor. I almost used it for lunch. Instead, I slipped it under the duck magnet on the fridge. It looked ridiculous, a president's face peeking out beneath a cartoon beak. It stayed there. That tiny museum exhibit of what I meant to them when they remembered. A line item. Gas money if I drove carefully. I said nothing. The people who train you to be quiet never trip over the silence they laid down for you. 11 months later, the group chat woke from hibernation like nothing had happened. Bateman family group, Mom. Hi, everyone. Big engagement news for Jenna. Let's plan something magical. Dad. Logistics first. Anna, you can coordinate? Jenna. Annie, you're the spreadsheet queen. Maybe host a planning night, please? It was so casual. Assignments doled out like cake slices at a party I hadn't been invited to. My thumb hovered over the keyboard with that old reflex, the one I mistook for love. Say yes, keep the peace, carry the weight. I muted the chat instead. Ghost mode without the haunt. 2 hours later, Aunt Shelley called. Her voice dipped in honey the way people talk when they've decided your refusal is a misunderstanding. Sweetheart, your mom said she hasn't heard from you. Everything okay? Everything's fine, I said, leaning against my counter, eyes on the fridge, on the duck magnet, on the obedient 20. Well, we're thrilled for Jenna and Evan, she chirped. Your mom mentioned you could help with setup. You've always had such a good eye. Funny, I said, and heard how even my humor sounded tired. No one mentioned that last year. She paused, then pivoted like change of subject was a form of CPR. Families are complicated. Only when it's convenient, I said. We both let the line breathe. She exhaled first. We miss you. I stared again at this bill on the fridge. The duck stared back. Do you? I asked. Not mean, just curious. She didn't argue. Let me know if you change your mind, she said softly, about helping. I didn't change my mind. If anything, something older in me finally did. The day the invitation arrived, the envelope wore a wax seal like a crown. Inside, pressed flowers, a watercolor venue, and 3 tidy boxes on the RSVP. Gladly attending, regretfully declining. Happy to help with coordination and setup. Not a question, a norm, my role pre-printed. I set the card on the counter beside the birthday 20. Artifacts. Evidence. Then I did what I do best when I'm done pretending. I organized my thoughts into a single sentence you can't step around. I found a plain note card, the kind Mom uses for labeling cheese trays, and wrote in neat blue ink, "Sorry, not my table." I propped it in front of a plate of cold lasagna, took a photo, and sent it to the Bateman family group with no caption. 3 minutes of nothing. Then Jenna, Anna, what? Mom, sweetheart, what's going on? Dad, is this a joke? Jenna again, this is my engagement, can we not? There it was, that shimmering word they only bring out for ceremonies and chores. Family. Not when they left me with a dumpling. Not when a 20 tried to pass for tenderness. Only now. When hands were needed. I muted the thread again. Properly this time. The note card joined the 20 on the fridge, the duck hovering like a witness. And inside the quiet that followed, I finally heard something I hadn't before. My own voice. Not loud, not cruel, just enough. They were going to ask again. Of course they would. But for the first time in 26 years, I knew my answer wouldn't change to make the room comfortable. It would change the room. A week after the lasagna photo detonated in the family group chat, the Batemans went strangely quiet. Not gone, just eerily polite, like everyone had agreed to whisper until the storm decided to pass. But storms don't pass when you stop talking. They linger, waiting for the next excuse to thunder. That excuse arrived as an email. Subject, just a thought, Mom's signature style, weaponized cheer. Anna, honey, I know you and your sister see things differently, but this day is about family. Let's come together to celebrate Jenna's happiness. You've always been our calm one. We really need that energy right now. Need. That word again. It always came wrapped in a bow of affection, but carried a receipt of obligation. They didn't miss me. They missed the way I smoothed edges, filled gaps, made chaos invisible. 2 hours later, Dad followed up. His style was the opposite. Short, efficient, like a man drafting meeting notes. This isn't about you. Show up and do what's right. No emojis. No warmth. Just an order from someone who still thought I was on payroll. I didn't reply. I let the silence stretch like elastic. The next day, the group chat revived itself in cautious fragments. Bateman family group. Jenna. Hey, just checking in. Still hope you'll be part of this. Mom. It would mean the world if you handled the welcome table. You're so organized. Dad. Confirming you can bring the speaker? 3 messages, 3 tasks, 0 acknowledgement. Not one of them mentioned the photo, the lasagna, the note, the birthday they'd skipped, the $20 still fossilized on my fridge. Just work assignments disguised as invitations. So I left them on red. 2 nights later, Aunt Shelley called again. She had a way of sounding both kind and complicit, like she'd helped bury the evidence but still brought flowers. "Your mom's upset," she began. She said that picture really hurt her feelings. I stirred my tea slowly. Did it? Or did the silence finally echo back? She sighed. "You know, your mother doesn't mean to forget." "She didn't forget, Shell. She chose priorities. It just wasn't me." Another pause. Then softer. "She's still your mom. And I'm still her daughter. But somehow that's only convenient when someone's getting married." Shell didn't argue. "You know, honey, sometimes family needs grace." "Grace goes both ways," I said. When we hung up, I felt it. The familiar ache of guilt trying to climb back in. The part of me trained to patch emotional leaks with apologies. But this time I didn't cave. I let the discomfort sit. Because guilt is only useful when it belongs to the right person. The wedding planning messages kept coming, like clockwork. "Jenna, we picked the venue. Lakeside Pavilion, OMG. Mom, Anna, could you coordinate the seating chart? You're so good with details." Dad, "We'll need your car to pick Grandma up." They had assigned me a list of duties long enough to qualify for payroll, and I hadn't even RSVP'd. A few nights later, I was halfway through microwaving leftover soup when my phone buzzed again. Jenna calling. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the better of me. "Hey, sis," she chirped. "So, about the wedding." "I haven't said I'm coming," I interrupted. A pause. I could practically hear her blink. "Well, of course you are. It's family." "Jenna, I spent my last birthday eating a dumpling alone while you all went out to dinner." Her voice softened. "It wasn't personal, Anna. You know how busy things were with my new job, and Mom didn't even text me," I finished. She sighed. "Look, can we not turn this into drama? I just want a happy wedding." "Then plan one," I said, without assigning me chores. Click. The line went dead before I could say more. The next morning, I woke up to a text from Mom. "Sweetheart, we've decided to move forward with the planning. Hope you'll come around soon. Love you." No apology. Just hope you'll come around, like my boundary was a bad mood they were waiting out. So I decided to give them something they'd understand. A visual. A few days later, I opened Instagram. The family's posts were all there. Engagement brunch prep. Flower testing day. Cake tasting with the Batemans. They all looked perfect. The kind of posts you scroll through and believe everything's fine. But people forget, social media is just a highlight reel. Mine had been empty for a while. Time to change that. I posted a photo of my fridge. On it, the duck magnet, the folded $20, and the lasagna note. Caption: "Sometimes you stop waiting for your seat at the table and build your own." Within minutes, the likes rolled in from coworkers, friends, even my old roommate. Not one from my family. A week later, Dad showed up at my apartment. No warning, no text, just a knock that sounded like authority. When I opened the door, he was already frowning. That post was cruel. I crossed my arms. No names, no insults, just truth. "You embarrassed your mother." She embarrassed herself. His jaw tightened. "You're acting like a child, and you're treating me like furniture." He stepped back slightly, surprised by my tone. I'd never raised my voice to him before, not once. "You think you're making some statement?" he asked. "You're just making this family look divided." I almost laughed. "Dad, it is divided. You just liked it better when the cracks didn't show." He didn't respond. He just stared at me, long enough for me to recognize something new in his eyes. Not anger, not disappointment, uncertainty. He finally said, "You'll regret this." "I already did," I said quietly, "for 26 years. Then I closed the door. That night, I lay on the couch, the glow from the fridge light spilling across the room. The 20, the note, symbols of two different moments that, together, told the whole story. They offered currency, I offered clarity, and for once, clarity won. But the next chapter of silence was about to get louder, because weddings don't wait for family feuds to resolve, and the Batemans were just getting started. The wedding weekend came faster than I expected, probably because I wasn't part of the countdown. No checklists to manage, no group calls to endure, no pastel spreadsheets labeled Anna's tasks. Just me, my apartment, and the sound of rain tapping against the window, like applause for finally sitting one out. The morning of the ceremony, my phone lit up exactly twice. "Mom, hope you'll come. It's not too late, Dad. Be at Lakeside Pavilion by 2. We have a seat for you." A seat, not an invitation. A seat. I didn't go. Instead, I walked to a diner a few blocks away, ordered pancakes with extra butter, and sat by the window. While other people were exchanging vows, I was watching a toddler try to eat syrup with her hands. It was messy, honest, alive. By 3 p.m., I opened Instagram. There they were, my family, beaming under fairy lights. Jenna and Evan in white and navy, champagne glasses mid-toast. Caption: the perfect day. Couldn't ask for a better family. I didn't like it. I didn't comment. But for the first time, I didn't ache. Because something inside me whispered, they look complete because I stopped filling the gaps. 2 days later, a box appeared at my door. No note, just Mom's handwriting on the label. Inside was a small photo album, handmade, ribbon-bound. The first page, Jenna and Evan smiling under a floral arch. Second, Mom and Dad, arms around them, glowing like they'd been chosen for a magazine spread. Third, a caption in blue pen, "We missed you. It wasn't the same." I closed the book, not angry, not sad, just clear. They didn't miss me. They missed the way I made everything smoother. The silence that followed was strange. No more group messages, no polite guilt calls, just absence, like we'd all agreed to stop pretending the strings were still attached. And in that quiet, I started to grow. At work, I finally pitched a project I'd been sitting on for months. My manager said, "Didn't know you had that in you." I smiled. Neither did they, I thought. I moved apartments. Top floor, no mold, no flickering lights. A balcony where I could drink coffee and watch the city soften into sunset. And somewhere in that newfound stillness, I met Leo. He was a graphic designer who called fonts crimes and took pictures of billboards for fun. The first time we met, he was holding a coffee cup with the wrong name scribbled on it, Neil. When I teased him, he shrugged. I answer to whoever buys the next round. We started small, late-night walks, half-burned pizza, laughter that filled spaces my family had left hollow. On our fourth date, he came to my apartment. While I poured wine, he wandered to the fridge. He read everything there, the duck magnet, the $20 bill, the lasagna note. "Sorry, not my table," he read aloud. "That's cold." "Honest," I said. He turned to me. "No offense, but they underestimated you, didn't they?" That one landed deep, because he didn't say you're better than them. He said they underestimated you. It was the first time someone looked at my boundaries and called them strength instead of stubbornness. Weeks passed. The Batemans posted family photos, cookouts, brunches, baby announcements, all polished smiles, all perfectly filtered. I watched from a distance, not out of jealousy, but as an anthropologist of dysfunction. Their captions always had the same rhythm: family first, so blessed, grateful for each other. Each word felt like a layer of frosting, sweet, smooth, and empty. Leo once joked, "You should comment," and also blessed with selective memory. I laughed. Tempting. But I didn't, because I didn't need to prove I'd outgrown it. Sometimes you just stop auditioning for a role that never fit. Then, in late spring, I got a message from Aunt Shelley. It wasn't guilt-tripped or sugar-coated. Just simple. "They're not doing great. Your mom's quiet, your dad's frustrated. Jenna's trying too hard to make everyone okay. They didn't expect your silence to last." I typed back. That's because they never thought my no was permanent. Shell didn't reply, but a minute later, she reacted with a single heart emoji. Not approval, just acknowledgement. That night, Leo came over with takeout and a bottle of cheap Prosecco. We sat on the balcony, the city hummed below us. He told me about his ex, Mia, the one who'd texted him recently. He didn't hide it or dramatize it, just told me, plainly. She reached out. I told her I'm seeing someone who doesn't need saving. I laughed. Was that me or a metaphor? He grinned. Both. And in that moment, I realized I didn't flinch at honesty anymore, because I finally understood what stability looked like when it wasn't built on my silence. A week later, an envelope arrived. This one smaller, tidier, deliberate. Inside, a single card. "We love you. Please come home for dinner soon." No, sorry. No, we were wrong. Just another invitation wrapped in hope that I'd resume the role they missed. I placed it on the fridge beside the 20 and the note. A triptych of lessons. And for the first time, the display didn't sting. It just reminded me that growth isn't always loud. It's sometimes just the act of not returning. But the Batemans weren't done testing that lesson. Because peace, I've learned, is never the final scene. It's just the setup for the next test. And mine was about to be served, complete with folding chairs, paper plates, and a seating chart that would change everything. It started with a text from Dad. "Cookout next Saturday. Just family. Hope you can make it." No guilt, no sermon, no heart emojis, just a line. And maybe that's why I almost said yes. For a few days, I debated. Was it an olive branch or bait? I told Leo, if I go, it's not to fix anything. It's to see if they even notice who I am now. He smiled. Then go, but on your terms. So I did. The morning of the cookout, I baked a tray of lasagna. Not for them, but for me. It was symbolic, really, bringing the same dish that had once been my message of rebellion. Except this time, it wasn't defiance. It was peace. When I pulled into the Bateman driveway, I half expected awkward silence or whispered side eyes. But Mom spotted me first. "Anna, sweetheart, you came," she said, rushing over, hugging me like she was afraid I might vanish mid-squeeze. Her perfume was the same, vanilla and apology. Dad gave a quick nod, the kind men give when words cost too much. "Good to see you," he said. I smiled faintly. "You too." Jenna waved from the grill, spatula in hand, grinning like everything was back to normal. "Hey, sis, grab a drink, relax. We've got burgers, hot dogs, and Mom's potato salad." Classic Bateman routine. Smiles as wallpaper, pretending the cracks were decorative. For the first 15 minutes, I played along. I set the lasagna on the serving table, chatted with Aunt Shelley, even laughed when Uncle Ron started his annual Guess Who Burned the Corn game. It almost felt normal, until I noticed the table. The main one, the long folding banquet covered in floral cloth, had place cards written in neat Sharpie. Mom, Dad, Jenna, Evan, Aunt Shelley, Uncle Ron, even Kyle, Jenna's college friend, who once forgot that microwaving metal was bad science. But not me. I scanned the edges, assuming maybe they'd run out of cards. Then I saw it. A smaller table near the grill, next to the cooler and condiment trays. One paper plate, a plastic cup, a folded napkin with Anna scribbled in blue marker. The pickle station. I froze for a second, not because I was angry, but because I couldn't decide if it was deliberate or just muscle memory. Years of being placed where I was most useful, not most wanted. Mom noticed my pause. "Oh, honey, I thought you'd prefer a little space over here, so you can, relax." "Next to the ketchup?" I said softly. She blinked, not catching the tone. "Exactly. Less crowded." I smiled, too calmly, probably. How thoughtful. I sat at my designated pickle throne, the sounds of chatter drifting over like a party next door. Every now and then, someone would glance my way, smile, wave, then return to their conversations. Jenna didn't seem to notice, too busy laughing at Evan's grill jokes. Mom flitted from guest to guest, her laughter just a little too high, like she was hoping it would drown out the obvious. Then Aunt Shelley wandered over, soda in hand. She looked at the empty seat beside me, then dragged over a lawn chair. "Mind if I join?" "Please do," I said. We sat quietly for a minute, watching the others. "You okay, kiddo?" she asked. "Yep." "Looks a little tight over here." "It's fine," I said, smiling. "It's familiar." Shell gave a sad chuckle. "They still don't get it, do they?" "No," I said, "but I finally do." She nodded, sipping her drink. "Sometimes people confuse peace with permission. They think your silence means you're over it." "Yeah," I murmured. "But silence just means I stopped explaining." We sat there in companionable quiet while laughter swelled from the main table. For once, I didn't feel excluded. I felt like an observer at a museum exhibit titled "The Family That Never Listened." When dessert rolled out, Mom carried a tray of cupcakes shaped like roses. She walked past me without realizing, handing them out at the main table first. It wasn't cruel, it was habit. And habits, I realized, can be stronger than love when never challenged. By the time she remembered me, I was already standing. "Leaving so soon?" she asked, eyes wide. "Yeah," I said. "Early meeting tomorrow." Her smile faltered. "We barely got to talk." "We've had years to talk," I said softly. "We just never did." She reached out. "Please don't go like this." "Like what?" "Upset." I shook my head. "I'm not upset, just done performing." Her eyes glossed with something close to recognition, but not quite apology. "I made your favorite lemon cupcakes," she said weakly. "They look great," I said. "You should save one for the next cookout." Then I picked up my lasagna dish, half-eaten, warm at the edges, and walked back to my car. Behind me, the laughter continued, slightly thinner this time. As I reached the end of the driveway, Jenna called out, "We've got to catch up soon, okay?" I turned, gave her a small thumbs up, and didn't stop walking. Because catching up isn't possible when someone never realized you were left behind. That night, I reheated a small portion of the lasagna for dinner. It tasted different. Not bitter anymore, just real. As I ate, I thought about something Shelley had said before leaving. You can't fix people who think your boundary is a betrayal. I set down my fork and whispered to the quiet apartment, then it's time they learn the difference. Outside, the city buzzed softly. Inside, my fridge glowed faintly, holding its little museum of moments. The 20, the lasagna note. And soon, I knew, another artifact would join them. Because this chapter wasn't ending in anger, it was ending in freedom. And freedom, I was learning, sometimes looks like walking away while everyone else still thinks you'll come back. The next few months felt like the quiet after a storm, unnervingly calm, but different this time, not the tense silence of avoidance. The kind that comes when you finally realize you don't owe anyone your presence to prove your peace. The Batemans carried on with their curated version of togetherness. I saw the proof on social media. Mom posting family Sundays, Dad grilling, Jenna in matching aprons with her new husband Evan. If I hadn't lived it, I might have believed it. But truth doesn't need filters. It just sits there, unedited, waiting to be seen. Thanksgiving arrived and I didn't go. No announcement, no fight, no long speech about why, just absence. 3 days later, Aunt Shelley sent a photo from the dinner table. No caption. The Batemans all smiling mid-toast, except one chair sat empty, mine. Napkin folded, plate set, fork aligned. They'd set a place for me anyway. For a long time, I stared at that picture. At first, I thought it was guilt, but the longer I looked, the more I realized it was just habit, a reflex, like setting an alarm even after you've quit the job. Sometimes people keep making space for you, not because they want you there, but because they don't know how to act once you've stopped filling it. Christmas followed the same script. A box arrived at my apartment. No return address, but Mom's handwriting betrayed her. Inside, a Starbucks gift card, a pine-scented candle, and a store-bought card that read, "Warm wishes from the Bateman family." Not love Mom and Dad, not we miss you, just corporate cheer. I lit the candle anyway. Its scent was called Woodland Solstice. It smelled like burnt pine cones and unresolved tension. When the wax began to pool, I looked at the flickering flame and whispered, "This is what peace costs, and it's worth it." Work became my new anchor. I led a project pitch that had been sitting in limbo for months. It got approved. My manager clapped me on the back. "Didn't know you had that in you," I smiled. Neither did they, I thought. And then there was Leo. He wasn't loud or flashy. He was steady. The kind of person who noticed the little things. Like the way I'd hum when reading reports, or how I always turned my coffee mug twice before taking a sip. One night, he came over with 2 plates of pancakes. "Why pancakes?" I asked. "Because you said birthdays shouldn't need permission," he said. "So, happy unbirthday." We ate pancakes on the balcony while the city shimmered below. He pointed at the fridge through the open window. "You still keep that note up?" I nodded. "It's my reminder." "Of what?" "That I stopped showing up to tables that required me to shrink first." He grinned. "You know what's better than refusing someone else's table?" "What?" "Building your own." A few days later, he proved it. He showed up with a hand-sketched card. On it was a simple drawing, a picnic table under a tree, and below it, in his messy handwriting, "Some tables you build yourself." I stuck it on the fridge beside the old note and the $20. 3 relics, 3 lessons. The 20, what their love cost. The lasagna note, the moment I stopped buying my seat. The sketch, proof I could build something new. Months later, Jenna texted out of the blue. "Hey, Anna, we're doing a baby shower in September. Mom really wants you to come." I stared at it for a long moment. Old reflexes twitched. The part of me that wanted to make peace, to show maturity, to be the bigger person. Then I took a deep breath and typed, "Wish you the best, but I won't be attending." No anger, no explanation, just clarity. She left it on read. And that silence, the same one that used to feel like punishment, now felt like freedom. That evening I made a cup of coffee and stepped out onto my tiny balcony. The sky was the color of honey and smoke, the kind of sunset that feels like closure. I sat at the little metal table Leo had helped me paint last month, a table we built together, literally, from old wooden planks and a secondhand store bargain. It wasn't perfect. The surface was uneven, the paint chipped at one corner, but it was mine. Every screw, every mark, every inch of space was something I'd chosen. I set my coffee down, looked at the skyline, and smiled. Some people spend their lives fighting for a seat at someone else's table. Others learn to build their own. And when I finally took that first sip of coffee, it hit me. It didn't taste like loss. It tasted like peace. I wasn't waiting to be remembered anymore, because I finally remembered myself.